Hi everyone, this is Monique Lynelle Gray, and I just wanted to talk to you today about my book. It's entitled Blessed in the Midst of the Storm, and it came out in 2015, and it talks about some different stuff that I've gone through. And if you don't know, I lost my father, and then I had a premature baby, and I had her at 5.5 months, and she passed away. And this was 4 months after my dad passed. And then um, another 2 years later, my mother passed of cancer. But um, I talk about grief in my book. In chapter 4, I talk about the stages of grief. And the thing is that I had to deal with it head on, and nobody really um, had ever broken down to me the stages of grief, and that I really wasn't tripping when I was feeling certain things and I was going through certain stuff. And in my book, I talk about 7 stages of grief, and then there's also from another source, there's 5 stages of grief, and they really they really start to overlap because people go through their stages at different times. So when somebody dies, and you feel angry or you get depressed or you're isolated, these are actually parts of the stages of grief. And the thing is that sometimes you need somebody else to talk to that understands what you're going through or that understands the process, because you'll think you're tripping because it's not a normal feeling. Mourning someone and grieving someone is not something that you're doing every day. And it's so much grief going on now that people might not be dealing with it in a positive way. And when I say positive, um, I mean, dealing with it and being realistic about what they expect from themselves, because there's ministers, there's doctors, they are people that are used to being strong, being on top of things, you know, having their mental health balanced, that are experiencing grief at alarming numbers and actually experiencing post traumatic stress or experiencing depression because it's so much. And the thing is, really, is that you're human. And these stages of grief are something that you have to deal with. And then I come back and talk about different scriptures that speak to the heart of people in it and help encourage you to continue to keep going. Because the thing is that it's not a one day situation. And sometimes you need to have one on one counseling with someone to help organize your life again. You might be angry, you could be in denial, you could be isolating yourself, you could be feeling guilty. All of these things are stages of grief, and people are not educated enough about grief because it's not something everybody wants to talk about. It's sort of like how life insurance, people know they need it, but they don't really want to talk about it. And being that I went in the army at 19 years old, and they hit it home quick for you. They ask you, who do you want your beneficiary to be for your last check if something happens to you? They ask you, how much do you want your life insurance policy to be? And they ask you that at 19. So some people come in at, 18 and 17 going on 18. So it's very young, and you wouldn't think, let me think about life insurance, or you have could get a will or something like that at that young of an age. You're not really thinking about that, but people have died younger. And the thing is that it's hard for all of us that have dealt with a loved one that dies, because you're attached to them, you love them, and it's okay to love them, and it's okay to cry, it's okay to miss them. But the thing is that you might need to lean on someone else. And if you're used to being the person that always holds it together, you might need to talk to somebody else or give yourself some time, give yourself a break. Because sometimes when you feel like, oh, I'm not crying and I'm good, and it's the first week when everybody's around and you just have to hold it together. But then when you get by yourself, you're crying and you're kicking something and you feel guilty or you feel sad or you feel mad or you feel like, why can't they just be here? And sometimes you even question God as to why did this happen? All of these things are normal. And especially people of faith, you feel like, oh, okay, my faith should cover all of this and I should be encouraged. Sometimes you don't feel like that. And if you read in Job, it talks about how Job's 10 children died. In the first chapter, he had all of his cattle, all of his earthly possessions, and his 10 children died the same day. And he was known to be a faithful man of God. And he was on the straight and narrow. He was living how he was supposed to. But the thing is that God allowed this to happen to him because he knew his heart. And he was allowing him to be tested because he took his hedge from around him. But the thing is that he shred and ripped his clothes. It's, in mourning because his children died, his cattle was gone, all his stock, his livestock, they were gone. Back to back messengers were telling them, this is what's happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. I challenge you to read Job. It is not easy to get to the end of Job if you just read it straight through, because a lot of people can go to the first chapter and see how devastating that thing was that happened, and then go to the last chapter and say that he got a double portion. He got double for his trouble because he persevered and he did not give up on his faith in God. He said, no, I'm not going to curse God and die. I'm not going to curse God and die. His faith was stronger than that. But it doesn't mean that he wasn't sad. It doesn't mean that he didn't get upset. It doesn't mean that he didn't feel some type of way about these things that were happening to him. And he expressed those things to God. And he said, the same way God gives, the same way God can take away. And he was giving back what he had before, double time. But see, the thing is that a lot of people want to rush their process because they see somebody else getting double for their trouble. But it takes years sometimes. And sometimes you have a day that just goes wrong and you cry and you hurt. But the thing is, deal with it, so that you don't have to feel the same exact way 20 years from now as you did when it was fresh. Cry if you have to. Talk it out. Deal with the issues, because if you don't deal with it, it will fester and you'll be like a person carrying around dead bones because you couldn't move on. It's going to hurt. But there is hope. There's hope in God. And if you are a believer, it's even more hope, because if the person that died was a believer, then you know that their eternity is sealed and they have salvation. And so it's just, it becomes a joyous occasion that they're in line for when they're going to be with the Lord. And we're still living this life. We still have bills. We still have things we have to do. So once you deal with your grief, then you can start planning and build as to who am I going to become now without this person. You start remembering what they stood for. What was their message in life? What would they want for you? But you can't get to that overnight. And people that try to act like it's not a process, they are deceiving themselves. You need to take your time. It is not something that you rush into in overnight. Whoop-de-doo, I'm joy fest over here. No, because you're setting yourself up to have a nervous breakdown or to totally break down because you're not processing things in its time. And everybody's time is different. Be gentle with yourself and your heart. Ask God for his comfort. Ask for his peace. But give yourself some time. Give yourself a break. And in my book, I talk about that. That's just one chapter. I talk about the actual grief process, but it's a number of principles that I use, and I'm going to. I'll make a few more videos that sort of talk about some of the things that I was actually blessed with during the times that I was going through a storm. And this is exactly what it's been. This pandemic has been a storm, and all of us are experiencing it at the same time, but we still have individual issues that are going on with just us, family members, friends of friends, people that are nurses, seeing people dying, and they're getting close to them, learning their personalities and seeing them while they're sick and trying to nurse them to health. You know, it becomes heavy when you're saying goodbye to so many people at once. And I actually understand firsthand what that feels like, but I'm an overcomer. And this didn't happen overnight. So some days I have my days. Some days I tear up. But I can also process to think about my father and something he said years ago. I can also think about my mom and how she used to make me some good old sandwiches when we were in elementary school and stuff like that. But you know, I'm going to talk to you later because I feel like I'm being long-winded. But Blessed in the Midst of the Storm is an easy read. It's about 55, 60 pages, and it hits home to, to when I see what's going on right now. I just thought of my book like, wow, this is how I was feeling and what I was going through when I wrote this. Like, to call on God when things are getting rough, to, not to fear, but, to look to God for things. And each chapter has something special in it. And this is what the book looks like. It's on, if you can see it, it's online. And I'll put a link to it. But I'll just tell you what my chapters are, and then I'll let you go. When the going gets rough, call on God. When you feel like hope is gone, have faith. When the fight isn't physical, use the armor of God. When death is all around you, fear not, for God is with you. When your heart is broken, seek the healer. Forgive to be free and to be forgiven. When you've done all that you can do, trust God. Turn the negative into positive by learning from the past, looking forward to God's promises. So it's 8 chapters. It's illustrations in the book. It talks about, I talk about my life, but it's circumstances and situations that have happened to give examples of how to deal with some things and how I dealt with them. But I follow it up with God's principles, his different scriptures that are given that I feel talk to that particular thing, that particular subject matter. And I really think is a helpful little book to help people see somebody else's point of view, but then also to look at it like, what did God say about this type of subject? Like, you should know that trouble doesn't last always. So I'm going to be hoping and praying that you all have a healed heart, and that peace will be with you. And understand that you're not alone, even though sometimes you feel alone. But God said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And if you believe that, then you know He's with you always. So you have a great day, great evening, and be blessed. And you'll hear from me again. So take care. In the midst of the storm, I'm still blessed, blessed, blessed. Through all of the years and all of the tears, through all of the hurt and all of the pain, when all hope is gone and everything's wrong, I use my faith and seek your face. 'Cause I'm blessed, I'm still blessed. I am blessed, I'm still blessed. 'Cause I'm blessed, I'm still blessed. I am blessed, I'm still blessed. La 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 la. I send up my prayers, not giving up, trusting in you. I know you will come through. When rumors have flown and friends come up gone, when I feel down and out, there is no doubt that I'm blessed. I'm still blessed. I am blessed. I'm still blessed. That I'm blessed. I'm still blessed. I am blessed. I'm still blessed. La 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 la. With walls crashing in and rain falling down, I'm still standing strong while everything looks wrong. When I'm lacking at home, God, you have shown you will come through when I think I'm through. If I hold on to faith and press through the day, joy will come in and have its way. In the midst of the storm, I'm still blessed, blessed, blessed. In the midst of the storm, I'm still blessed, blessed, blessed. I am blessed. I'm still blessed, blessed. I am blessed. I'm still blessed, blessed. I am blessed. I'm still blessed, blessed. I am blessed.